Welcome to Blue Waters Master League. Tonight, we've got Chiquita Banana LATAM Outreach versus Summit Esports. I think that's Wawas in what's sure to be a draw-topping match. It's definitely tripping me up, but I am your host for the evening, Korek, joined by my good, soon-to-be new friend, Toki. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm definitely looking forward to this game. I mean, like you said, we have two pretty big teams here, especially Summit Esports Wawas, currently number 1 in the standings as part of their group, have yet to drop a full series. So, going to be a tough one for Chiquita Banana, but maybe they'll be able to bring it up for themselves.
Always love to hear a underdog story. And that's kind of one of the reasons I enjoy doing the Iron, Bronze, Silver, Gold League, which this is Masters. But one of the reasons I enjoy those is because of how unpredictable they can be. And you can see a team that's getting absolutely creamed just suddenly turn things around. It does happen in Masters. It's a lot less likely because when you get about the Masters level and the GM level, the players are a lot more solid. They're very confident in what they can and can't do, especially when we get into the 5v5 competitive team setting, Toki.
I mean, in my experience, if there is any elo that is almost as flip-floppy as IBSG, it actually probably would be Masters. And I think a lot of that is because if you've ever seen these Masters League, these players only care about one thing and one thing only. And it's not winning, it's fighting. That's what they want to do, just a non-stop brawl. There's one person showing on the map, top lane, you're in bottom lane, you are TPing up there, you are starting that engagement, you're starting that fight. But a lot of these players, they're still mechanically sound. They understand the macro of the game, but they will definitely skip a little bit of tempo and take a little bit of unnecessary fights. But honestly, that's why I love watching Masters. Definitely the most entertaining elo.
That does add up. There's a GM sort of Masters Pike player that I watch a good chunk of called Y Guy, who his statement for Masters players, him being one of them, is Master players are just bronze players that won all their promos. And I could see that to some degree in some level. I think it's a funny way of stating it. Either way, I'm excited to see what we've got here. I'm not sure if you had time to look over the U.GGs. I was a bad caster and I didn't get too much opportunity to go into them too deeply. But is there anyone you got a chance to sort of see that maybe we should be highlighting, that we should be looking at going forward, Toki?
I mean, I've seen this Wawa squad play in the past. I think they're a very solid team, but their main highlight and the main player that I want to be watching today uh, has to be Troy. If coming in for the top lane for Summit Esports, he is a very solid player. I've actually had the pleasure of working with him before, where he was coaching one of my teams. Really solid individual, very solid player as well. So we can look towards that top side for Summit Esports Wawas to be a very strong point for that team.
Topside herd. Quick items of housekeeping. If you look to, I believe it's to the left of my big dumb head, you will see Chiquita Banana over there. That is going to be the red side, and Summit Esports are going to be a blue side right next to Tokibi's big dumb head. We're going through our first couple of bans, and these already make a lot of sense. Caitlyn, who in my opinion is very, very game warping. She did get a couple of nerfs, I believe, in the last patch. I haven't got a chance to dig too deep into these patch notes, and then we're going to immediately follow it up with Yunara, also still very, very powerful. I don't think they've touched her too much since they initially nerfed her movement speed towards enemy and her slow effects.
Yeah, definitely haven't been touching her too much, but the main ban that I want to talk about is actually the one that just came through, the Mbessa ban, because in the past, that would signify a lot of different top lane champs I do want to play, but I think with the latest patch, that is a ban for Mbessa jungle, because right now she is by far the flavor of the month jungler. She can clear incredibly fast. I believe she out clears Xin Zhao, J4, all of the big meta junglers right now. And obviously with that mobility, has very solid ganks, especially once level 6 comes through. But in the meanwhile, we do have Xin Zhao getting locked in for Summit Esports Wawas. Nothing too surprising there. And then the Orianna Wukong on the side of Chiquita Banana. And this is a pretty solid combo. It does mean that they are going to be pretty weak in the early stages of the game. They need level 6 on both Orianna and Wukong for both of these two champions to really come online. So depending on who they pick into the mid lane, I actually wouldn't hate to see something like, I was going to say Syndra or Talia. Either of them would work here, because with the Xin Zhao and the Talia, they can easily win those 2v2. So I would like to see some early aggression coming out of Summit Esports.
Especially because one of the biggest things we have on Wukong is not only the awesome ball delivery system, but if you're able to delay him, you can really mess him up, even if you catch him like sort of somewhere in the middle too. And Talia's got such a great kit for denying that or slowing it down at the very least, which really cuts into his armor shred and has a lot of problems. And it looks like we're going to go from the Talia into possibly Sion. I think Sion is also very, very powerful. Even if you destroy him, he's the most, I won't say he's the most Sion has ever been, but he's pretty freaking close right now in the meta.
Yeah, he did get some indirect nerfs in the last patch, especially the Doran shield changes and the second wind changes really did affect him quite a bit. But at the same time, there has been a bit of a new meta, which I believe Macro, the Ornn OTP, has started in the top lane for some champions, where you start Rejuvenation Bead first. The natural health regen that Sion has is very high, so getting 100% bonus really adds up. As okay, I'll be honest, I'm really not liking this draft so far from Chiquita Banana. This is another champion that needs time to get online, because the way things are moving right now, Orianna needs level 6, Wukong needs level 6, and Dr. Mundo needs level 11 and 2 items before he's a relevant champion. And Sion, despite also being quote-unquote a late game champion, a late game tank, definitely comes online quite early, especially into something like a Dr. Mundo.
And he stays online the whole time, even early on. I put Sion in the same category where it comes into surprisingness as I do Ornn in the top lane, to where Ornn will win a lot of 1v1s that you don't expect them to. A lot of people just really don't expect the damage from Ornn, and Sion can do the same thing, but with his Q instead. If you're not constantly dodging that, it can really spell the doom of the fight. What I do like, at the very least, though, is Chiquita didn't blind pick Dr. Mundo, which is one of my biggest pet peeves for him right now, because as you mentioned and touched on a little bit before, Dr. Mundo really needs two things. He needs his health bar and he needs the gold, and then he needs to beat you to death with his health bar. And if he doesn't have those two things, then he really struggles a lot of times in lane. I know, haha, funny, Mundo goes where he pleases, but you know, there's a lot of options to pick into countering him. I'm not sure how Sion is supposed to sit right now into him. I doubt he's going to do too bad. I have seen the match go both directions for the top lane, and you'd say that's something we need to watch out for. So that lane may be a bit more volatile than we already know, than we already expect. Next couple of bans, though, Tokibi are coming out. Looks like we're going to go with Lucian and Zeri, who I don't know who I feel about. I don't feel like she's super insane, so maybe this is more of a targeted ban, and going in sort of that comfort pick. And then it's going to be double support ban for the Nami and the Seraphine.
I think into a Wukong Dr. Mundo, especially with the latest round of buffs that Zeri's gotten. I don't think she's super strong in the meta overall, but I think she would have been very strong this game because that extra 0.5% movement speed on every single Q after the Lightning Crash procs. And Mundo can take a lot of those. She's basically just going to be able to just run across the map in like 5 seconds. Her movement speed would be just impossible to catch on. And most of the champions right now are more or less oriented towards skill shots, which does make it pretty hard to catch. So I actually really like that ban. But again, they're just picking more and more late game. I mean, at this point, if Chiquita does get into the late game, yeah, they're going to absolutely dominate this game, but they need somewhere to play through. And the only thing I can see working for them is maybe if they start targeting out this Talia, if they start making plays towards the mid lane. But even then, it requires level 6. And if Morn and Kastek do play together early on to shut down White Wazowski, then there's really no play to be had in that middle lane. And now in the bottom lane, we're seeing the Vayne, also very good into Dr. Mundo. And we haven't really talked too much about this yet, but they have a lot of slows. They have a lot of CC to just kind of help peel for the backline and kind of prevent the Dr. Mundo from getting into the team. Talia's very good at it. Jin Zhao's very good at it. Sion's very good at it. Soraka struggles a little bit, but she's still going to be very useful in this game. And considering there isn't too much early game damage, I think the Soraka means that if they fall behind on the side of Chiquita, it's going to be so much harder for them to get back ahead, especially with the Wish. Even if you find a pick off, it might take you a little bit longer to get the kill, as we are going to be seeing Lou locked in. Okay, so full late game team composition coming out from Chiquita Bananas. It's going to be a difficult one, but if they're able to get ahead early, if they're able to, they don't even need to get ahead. They just need to not fall too far behind. Then they can definitely get back into this game closer towards the mid to late game end. But I think it's going to be really tough. They don't have a single lane that I think naturally wins.
I think the only thing I can see for this is I've seen Oriana's win surprisingly amount in the trades, at least early on. She does sort of a deceptive amount of damage. You don't expect her to hit as hard as she does, and that can really surprise you. I do expect Talia to win that, but it's not impossible. I have seen Oriana's win that over and over, and I do like the Soraka. Both Soraka and Lulu are champions I have an insane amount of playtime on for a lot of different reasons, and I think when it comes to the team fights themselves, one of the biggest things we have to watch out with for the Soraka is that E. It can do actually a devastating amount of damage. If you have this forward motion team and you time it correctly, you can not only silence a large portion of the team, but you can also stun them, buying themselves time. And the thing Soraka does really, really well is she erases mistakes, right? And that's one of the biggest things. All those little bitty mistakes add up and cost you games. And Soraka goes, oh, okay, you took a little bit extra damage here. Let me get rid of that. You know, and that's very, very powerful. And then we've got Lulu here with Sivir. Sivir is that late game bomb, something to look forward to. As soon as we hit those 4 items, turns into that hyper carry. And then on top of that, they have Lulu to support them, because what Soraka wants, sure, engagement supports are awesome, and I know they're super crazy meta, but in my opinion, what Sivir really, really wants is something to increase her multiplicatives, right? Normally it's items, but Lulu does that by herself with a lot of different tools as well in order to help her just sort of generate that. But when we're looking at these teams, I want to get your opinion on the early objectives, Toki. Who do you think's going for what, and what's important if we're just talking about these first 3 or 4 neutral objectives?
To be completely honest, I think if Summit Esports plays this comp the way it should be, they shouldn't need to trade any objectives. They should be able to just take every single one for themselves. I think that Jin Zhao Talia is so strong pre-6, and you're going to be losing out on the top side with Sion. With Sion versus Mundo, that's just not a matchup Mundo will ever be able to win in. He might be able to still farm safely, not go down, but the pariah will always be on the side of Sion there. Bot lane's kind of the only area where they could look, but because Sivir naturally gets a lot of prio in the bot lane, she has very big wave clear. Vayne, on the other hand, has one of the slowest wave clears. I have 80 carries, but at the same time, I don't know if that would buy them enough pressure to just go for the early game dragon. So I don't know. I think Summit Esports should be able to just control every single one. I would like them to focus more towards the grubs if they do have to choose one. Because, again, if they go to late game, they are going to lose. So anything that can speed up the pace is something that they should get.
Either way, neither us nor the players themselves will know until we actually see the rubber meet the road. With that being said, we're going to go into a quick about 2 to 3 minute break, run through the spectator delay, and hopefully push out an ad so it doesn't start during the actual game itself because we can't turn them off. But make sure to stay tuned, and we'll be right back in about 2 to 3 minutes. Alrighty, everybody, here we're going into game number 1 between Chiquita Banana and, of course, Summit Esports sitting at blue side and red side. I got to watch out for that. I don't expect really anything to happen. One of the big things Riot has focused on, of course, Tokibi, is going to be the fact that the invades just aren't as powerful. I just noticed the snow effect, by the way, for this map.
Yeah, that snow effect has been on for the last little while. It's really pretty. This is my first time seeing the winter map. Because I know it's been a thing in previous seasons, but every single time that's come through, that's exactly when I decided to take my break. So I'm really enjoying it. It's really putting me in the festive spirit.
One of my favorite things is while we're watching, just look at the small little bitty things. My favorite thing I think so far is in the bottom right-hand sector of the map where there's a gigantic ergot snowman that just looks absolutely mortifying. So if we ever get over there, that's something to watch out for. But there's all kinds of like tiny little Easter eggs that are super fantastic. The only thing that I don't think they really touched is I don't think Drake got anything fancy. I don't think they got any hats or anything like that. Everyone else is pretty Christmased up though.
Yeah, I mean, one thing Quacks and I were complaining about the other day when we were casting, there's little frogs across the map that all have these little Santa hats, and they look absolutely adorable. But Gromp doesn't get anything. And I would have absolutely loved it if Gromp got that same hat. And I mean the same one, the same tiny one. So that it would just be like the absolute smallest Santa hat on the biggest ever Gromp. I think that would be something the Riot really needs to fix before the client, before adding voice. Just add that hat.
Well, and looking at this right now, we're starting off relatively decent. It looks like I didn't realize Scion came down here. So we've got Troy making a visit here, maybe not wanting to deal with Dr. Mundo, or maybe Vayne not wanting to deal with the other side. As you mentioned, Vayne does still do really well into Mundo, so that should be a bit of a harder lane for them to deal with. And we're kind of seeing that, at least in a small CS lead there for the top lane. But one of the big things pre-level 2 that Lulu wants to try to get in here, or sorry, Soraka wants to try to get in here is a bit of damage. Troy going in, doing a little bit of a how you doing sort of there. Soraka already down to about half HP, but that's not the worst thing. She can get it back with a couple of Qs, but the big thing is now sitting at level 2, Lulu should have that EQ-AA combo, which Soraka, even if she gets her Q down, just cannot afford to trade into.
Yeah, definitely not. And to talk more about that lane swap, I think it's for a few reasons. One, Scion is one of the best weak side top laners in the game. So when you have a situation like this, even though it looks bad, Troy's taking a lot of damage. May has the boomerangs bouncing around as well. It's actually not that bad because Troy has very high base regen, kind of like I talked about in the draft. Has the shield, has the soul furnace. And later on, when they do decide to go back to regular lanes, we'll also have that comeback XP mechanic. So eventually Troy will be strong again, as some pretty major action. Common actually taken down decently low will be forced to back away, and that's exactly why people play Scion in these off lanes. It's just so much easier for him compared to most other top lane champions to just get these last hits and just safely farm up and sometimes even apply pressure.
Absolutely. And understanding what your win cons are, what your team is better and worse at doing, and leaning into those are what makes the difference between these bad or good teams. I really like the combination that we've seen back and forward between Soraka and Scion, between Troy and them, just sort of absolutely knocking them down, doing a good amount of damage, because Vayne kind of struggles, I feel like, in the early game, even against someone like Sivir, who needs those items to come online. They can both do a deceptive amount of damage, but I feel like just with the bounce, it hurts Vayne just a little bit more, and it makes it difficult for Mei and to move up and get close.
Yeah, for sure. And it's one of those things as, never mind, we'll hold that thought for now because they're finally doing what I wanted them to do at the start, which is just
as Moran goes in. The clone is good. The Q comes down, but I don't think we're going to get too much here from this Tokibi. No one really seems to be wanting too committed. Troy is not the same case, just absolutely tanking those shots. Scion may be a later or mid-game champion, but it's even worse in the end of Sivir, and I do see that. Soraka, specifically Mei, heading back top lane, so this is going to be a full 2v1 in top and in bot.
Yeah, but again, the 2v1 will always be favoring Troy. Scion has much stronger wave clear, has a lot more safety tools as well as Fluoride may have gone a little bit deep.
Ooh, the flash comes forward as we do pick up the kill on Vayne. 2 tower shots were not enough to take her down. Scion sticking here on the bottom, and that's going to be the first kill for Summit Esports in game number 1.
Yeah, and that's one of the other reasons why they put the Vayne in the top side. You said she's pretty weak into Sivir, and I do agree to some extent because Sivir's just gonna push the wave in. I think in a clean one versus one, the Vayne would come out on top, but the Sivir has no reason to ever fight. Now, in the top side, where there's a melee Dr. Mundo who has only raw HP, just not going to be able to do too much. As
coming in, looking for the damage to try to lock down Talia, but the trade is still pretty even. Rocks flying back and forth. That's that damage I was talking about that people sort of underestimate in the trade with Orianna. Very happy to do that. The Q comes down in bot lane, and it looks like Lulu is finally returning.
Yeah, the Lulu is going to be walking up towards that bot side river, just trying to get a little bit of vision thrown down. And just taking a quick look over at the CS numbers, I'm actually a little bit surprised. Fluoride is getting significantly more CS than Troy is right now. I think part of that is definitely the fact that Sivir is always able to push the waves in. And I think the other part of it is that Troy's been putting a lot of emphasis towards trying to take down HH Comet. And every time Troy walks up trying to get a little bit of a trade on a Comet, try and threaten this Sivir, he ends up missing a little bit of CS. As we can see right there, 2 minions just going to get lost as Troy's trying to pressure. And it's only 1 or 2 minions every single time, but it adds up. League is a game of inches, so eventually it does come out where Fluoride is the one that's getting the lead despite the death.
We did get a rotation. It looks like Fluoride's getting a little bit of support, and Lulu on the way. Vayne trying to do a bit of damage, trading back and forward. May not having a good chunk to deal with. We do have our Drake up, but it's been up for about 2 minutes or so. Wukong deciding to back instead of taking it, which means we got a minute on the clock as Troy slaps down an ult. Comet taking a good chunk of damage, a little bit of back and forward, but Troy doesn't have a lot of mana to follow this up, but that is still scary starting off this early in the game.
Yeah, really nice spell shield coming out from Comet. I mean, whenever you throw out the Unstoppable Onslaught, it is very predictable. I mean, there's a pretty loud, depending on the skin, a pretty loud sound coming in to let you know that it is on the way. So if you're able to spell shield that, I think that Troy wanted to land the Decimating Smash after, but again, with the mana bar that he has, just not really possible. But still, it is applying a little bit of pressure towards Comet. Comet had to burn a lot of his own mana. And a lot of that Sivir strength is just from that wave clear, but you do need a full mana bar in order to be able to do that.
Ooh, decent knockup over here, trying to lock down Bug. Bug going down about half HP. Soraka there trying to follow it up. We just need 1 or 2 more shots. Just 1 more, and the Flash comes out there, keeping themselves alive. Almost only counts in horseshoes, hand grenades, and that, of course, is neither one. Orianna able to escape scot-free, but does have to make the walk of shame back.
Yeah, oh, Cyclone.
Ooh. That's not good. Mei going to run directly into the Wukong. Wukong's still going to want it. There's going to be the double Cyclone flash over the wall, taking down the Soraka. Talia trying to follow it up, but here is the Cavalry. Lulu coming in with a shield, but we're going to get knocked into the tower. This is going to be a really dangerous monkey, and we do not get away. Okay, what a weird conundrum.
Yeah, the red buff was enough of a bird buzz. Now Comet's in danger on the bot side.
Comet overstaying, running directly into Troy. There's the barrier coming down. We do still have a Q here for Troy, but it looks like he decides not to take it, and we do walk out. And something I kept wanting to say right before action popped off, and it looks like I'm not going to say it once again, as we're going to condemn directly into the wall. Lulu in a little bit of danger, going down about half HP, having a flash over the wall. So many summoners down at the 9-minute mark, but most importantly, that's going to be one tool not in the favor of Chiquita, because now we're going to be focusing on this objective. Bug is here.
And no Cyclone on Mike Wazowski, though.
We're going to go in. There's going to be the Crescent Guard for the Zen, trying to lock them down. Lots of damage back and forward. Get a little bit of juggling. There's a Feats of War finally getting claimed by Vayne. Things are not looking good for Chiquita, but the Cavalry Fluoride is here, but he's going to take so much damage from the other Zen. Mei keeping everyone alive, and it looks like only the monkey and the support. No, she does finally go down. So not only do they lose every single grub, they give so much gold over to Vayne. That's a triple kill. That's 2 kills on Vayne.
And they didn't need to go there at all. I was actually about to say before that fight started, the early game was being a little bit slow coming out from Summit Esports. Chiquita Banana, yes, they were down a couple hundred gold, but they weren't really out of it at all. But let's rewatch this fight. And again, there was no Cyclone, and I think that made a huge difference. So because of that, Nantono Asura, even when they were caught out, there was a shockwave that hit on too. They were just able to run them down immediately afterwards. The burst just wasn't there coming out from Chiquita Banana. They needed all of their tools up if they wanted to contest that end. Oh, like I was saying, they had a pretty solid early game for themselves. They were down a couple hundred gold, but when you're this hyper late game comp, being down a couple hundred gold early is being ahead of your pace. But they just kind of took a fight for no reason, and they're paid dearly for it.
One of the things you mentioned is that they're a bit of a later game team, so they need to play it slow. They need to take their time, and even if they have to give up Void Grubs, it may not be the worst thing. Sure, I love having Void Grubs on Sivir, not necessarily because Sivir is the world best at taking down towers, but entirely because she's got such a great wave clear, and then she can take out towers even faster. Plus, you have Dr. Mundo, so I understand wanting to try and fight for it, but I just don't think you're going to win that fight early on, especially with a Soraka Vayne. Soraka went down to about 200 HP, and Vayne went down to about 200 HP, and Soraka's just like, no, yeah, I'm going to take you back up to half HP.
Yeah, there's just no way they could win that fight without the Cyclone present as well. And I actually think if they did have Cyclone in that fight, they do win that fight, but you have to be aware of what cooldowns you have when you do choose these kinds of angles. Now, looking over in this bot side, Nanto no Asura gonna have the full completed Bork. Should be able to get the tier 2 boots as well on this recall. And that just makes it so hard for Comet. And Comet's been farming really well. I think overall has been above this Vayne in terms of CS. And before, this meant that Comet could reasonably trade, reasonably contest onto Nanto no Asura, but won't be able to anymore. But Dragon has already been started, and they do have more numbers here.
Ooh, looks like it comes in the smite battle going to Chiquita's end, where it looks like we're going to overextend ourselves a little bit more. There's the Crossing Guard going to get locked down. Condemn once again, locking the Lulu directly into the wall. Vayne's out for blood. This is turning into a little bit of a hyper carry as Comet once again just barely able to escape. Vayne does get taken down by the Wukong, but it does cost them a life. That's going to be a 1-for-2 trade, and the Drake still falling to the other side, still falling at the very least to Chiquita Banana.
Yeah, Chiquita Banana, they might not hate this that much. They do get themselves the dragon, and we see Nanto no Asura just coming in from the side and bursting down Flea Pain before the Wild Growth could come out. Now, unfortunately, the barrier does keep Comet alive, and because of that, Wyke Wazowski with the help of Florida are just going to be able to get that kill. And overall, it's a 2-for-1 and a shutdown, though, as back into action.
Sorry, another fight. Ooh, Zen getting stuck inside the jungle as Sivir picks up a kill. That's not what you want. You don't want to overextend because that accelerates that ticking time bomb we were talking about. If this goes to late game Toki B, that's going to be a very, very scary Sivir.
Yeah, and that's going to be 2 shutdowns in a row given away by Summit Esports. When you have a shutdown on yourself like that, you have to understand you yourself are an objective. So whenever you're trading 1-for-1, you can think of it as trading a dragon for 1 kill. It's usually not worth it. And in that situation, though, Morn unfortunately did just get caught a little bit. They're still fine. They still have the lead on Summit Esports Wawas 1K, but it's definitely not as comfortable as it was just a couple minutes ago. And more importantly, the fact that Comet was the one to get that shutdown, it's really going to accelerate the pace for Chiquita Banana.
Absolutely, and part of that ticking time bomb for Sivir is, of course, going to be reaching those 4 items, which are going to be so important for her hyper carry status. We cannot forget Vayne, though. Vayne should do pretty consistent damage throughout all of this. We have such a great target to go for, Dr. Mundo, but that can turn into a double-edged sword because if you spend a lot of time trying to chop down the tree that is Dr. Mundo, the rest of the team can come in and kill you, especially with the fact that we have, Wukong and Orianna here, which are going to love. If Wukong and Orianna are able to get into the bot combination, it's just going to do so much. You mentioned how important that Cyclone's going to be, and it not only disrupts the Vayne, but if they're able to catch Vayne and Soraka, I think the team fight's just theirs.
Yeah, and I think it's all going to depend on how Summit Esports plays this, because looking at their composition and looking at what they're up against, I think the way you should want to play this composition is to get to objectives early and then just play backwards, kite backwards. It's okay to give a little bit of space, just make them pay with their health bars every single time they do try to take something. Because, again, Soraka doesn't really offer much beyond that silence. And when you're trying to walk into the enemy, it's so hard to land it. Because you just need the range. If you're that close to them, you're in range of getting attacked. And at the same time, they have the Talia, they have Unstoppable Onslaught, Decimating Smash coming out from Troy, Crescent Guard coming out from Morn. They have so many tools of just splitting the fight up when someone's running into them. And with the engage that they do have on the side of Chiquita Banana, that is kind of how they would want to play. They do want to play forward. And right now, they are playing very forward. They're just going to be able to take the Rift Herald for free. And I was saying that there's a lot of objectives that Summit Esports should have been able to take early game. And looks like the vast majority of them are just going to be going over to Chiquita Banana, but it will be traded for the first turn of the game, which does give the feed, so might have just been the call from Summit Esports to trade that way.
Ooh, once again, Lulu picking up Condemn after Condemn, which gives Lulu a very appropriate name. This is Flea Pain, which for me just seems like feel pain, and I think they definitely are feeling pain with this constant Condemn back and forward. Jungle Vision shifting to the other side. We got about 1 minute and 10 seconds on the clock until the next upcoming Drake, and I think the next 2, maybe 3 Drakes will really dictate how the rest of the game is going to go. I think that'll be the biggest tempo shift until Sivir comes online, and then how the other side wants to do it. But I do agree with you. Okay, we're not going to get it. Shockwave, unfortunately, is not good as we flash out of range of it. That's going to be good on their end. But I think Riot really punishes overextending, which is very easy to do on the other team. Like we're seeing right now, running directly into the blue buff. Looks like Troy going to try to lock down White Wazowski. Going to get taken down, unfortunately for him, making the same mistake that his counterpart that Zen made earlier.
Yeah, and I mean, you love to see the good sportsmanship in games. Someone made a mistake, you're like, it's okay. We'll just match it. We'll do the same one. Don't want any unfair advantage. We want raw skill matchups. That's what everyone's been saying for a while. So good to see this in esports in this day and age.
Got to continue to thicken the plot, and it looks like the players are in on that same motion. A little bit of change around, figuring out where we're sending everyone. Dr. Mundo heading bot lane and just kind of ignoring Talia in order to take that, doing the push Dr. Mundo thing. Ooh, Lulu getting so close to getting nabbed there. And then, of course, Sion making his way back top, trying to push that out. And I'm not sure Bug really wants this fight. This is a lot of damage, and you are running pretty low on mana. There's the Q finally coming out. Troy taking them down about half HP, but I don't think they want to trade too much for too long. I say that as another Q pops its way down, and they still continue trying to chop down the tree that is Bug, but we're looking for a gank. It looks like White Wazowski is here, so that's what Bug's plan is. We're just trying to bait it out. Both the Lulu and the Wukong are here.
Yeah, but with the tier 1 there, I don't think that they can take Troy down, even with all 3 of them. And in fact, the fact that they're showing does give away a lot of mid priority. So they will be able to take this tier 1 with the Herald in the top side. But again, they're trading for the mid tier 1. There is the TP. I believe this is Shitbug. And with a Shockwave
on 3, Lucky the down May takes so much damage and is dead before the fight even starts. Now, Vayne here left holding the bag. Gonna get taken down as Zed goes back in, but it's not gonna be enough because the Lulu with the ultimate and the knockup. That's not what you want to see. That's 3 kills. And now we're gonna be taking down the mid tower.
Yeah, and now all of a sudden this is worth it because Shitbug was able to get the Shockwave on all 3 members. I mean, let's look at this TP. I was wondering if they thought this maybe was Fluoride, but all 3 members full combo. Wish comes through, doesn't even matter. Mei just taking so much damage, and they were trying to turn this back around, but there was just no way. They took way too much. There's another fight on the Kostek.
Ooh, Cyclone coming in as it's not even really a competition. However, Troy is here with a knock-up Comet, taking a good chunk of damage. Mei is here for a little bit of support, having to dodge and delay themselves a little bit of time. Troy really wants this kill. The Q is good. The barrier going to pop off. Lulu is here. We're going to get a little bit of speed buff here from Comet. And once again, Comet just barely escapes. That was that 3 or 4 times, escaping with like maybe 200 HP.
Yeah, I mean, it's been numerous, but it looks like right now they're aiming towards another pickoff towards the bot side onto Fluoride, who's actually going to be TPing out. So we'll be able to get away safely, but we'll lose the summoner in the process. But let's take a moment to just look at the state of the game right now. Fluoride is 0-3-0. Yes, not a good score, but top tier 1 stands, mid tier 1 stands. Only the bot tier 1 is gone. And Fluoride is level 12 on the Mundo with those 2 items that you need in order to become relevant. So at this point, this Dr. Mundo is online. Okay, what about their bot lane? Comet, 303, 177 CS. Now Kostek is in trouble.
Oh, it's not even a competition as we step up once again. This is one of the critical mistakes that Summit keeps making. They keep overextending. I'm not sure if it's a warding problem or if it's just an overconfidence problem, but every time they step up in a bad position, Chiquita just seems to be poised and in a good spot to take advantage of that.
What I'm seeing right now from Summit Esports is they seem to be doing set plays pretty well together. They know how to set up for Dragon together. They know when they're walking into the enemy jungle, they walk in as a team. They do that super well. But when it's in between those plays, when they're kind of in the skirmish zone, that's when they overextend a little bit as Maymay in that spot.
Maymay in a bad spot. Gotta pick up that Cyclone directly to the face. The position in Soraka is so important as the entire team begins to fall to pieces. Talia comes in for the save, but she's not there in time. One of the biggest things you need to watch out if you're going to tell the tempo of this fight is where is the Soraka, and in this case, the Soraka was a little bit too far forward, which cost them so much.
And it's a 4.5K gold lead for the hyper-scaling late-game team, as now Shitbug getting jumped on, but Troy's not able to land it either, so Shitbug's going to be just fine. That's going to be the unstoppable onslaught burned there as well. And it's the Otacon going the way of Chiquita Banana as well, and everything's going in their direction, and we talked about how strong their late game is, and I think at this point, it's hard for some of the Esports Wawas to get back into this.
Well, and I think you brought up a good point. You know, not only is Florid, not only is Dr. Mundo online, just based off his items, he's always in the right spot. He's always providing exactly what he needs for his team, which is the front part of the front to back, you know, allowing the rest of the damage to come in. You know, League of Legends is not a KDA-based game, so, you know, in some regards, you can take losses in order to get benefits for your team, and look at where the gold is at. We've got it on Sivir, we've got it on Orianna, we've got it on Wukong. It's in all of the right spaces. Sure, Fluorite Dr. Mundo would love it, but you know, if you can trade that, if you could soak up a bit of damage for your team to do the other side, Buck and a little bit of treble as where it looks like we're going to start some sort of fight. The dive should be pretty good, but there's going to be this shockwave locking them down. Wukong here for the save, locking down once again the Soraka. She just cannot escape. They're going to be Q, going to get taken down. Vayne here for a kill on the other end. It looks like Redemption coming down, but it's not going to be enough. There's a second Cyclone going to get activated. White Wazowski got to get taken down by the Vayne. You cannot forget how powerful it is. That could have gone really bad, though.
Yeah, that invisibility from Final Hour catching Shitbug off guard, I think that's the only reason that play works. They send all of their members top, and that dive, let's be honest here, it was scuffed. I think we can all agree on that. The start of that dive definitely did not go the way some of these Esports Wawas wanted it to. Very nice shockwave coming out from the Orianna to just keep the play dead, trying to keep them underneath the turret as long as possible. They were even able to take down May, but after that, the Vayne was able to come in. And not only that, they were able to get themselves the kills. They're going to be able to turn that into an objective. And I think that's the main thing a lot of these teams need to do. They get the tier 1 on the top side. They do lose the tier 2, but they get the dragon with it. So 2 objectives to 1, and you get 2-to-1 in terms of kill trade. You will definitely take that, but it's still the gold lead to Chiquita Banana. They need to do that a couple more times until the pace of the game starts favoring them again.
Well, and something I've noticed here is oftentimes the team kind of focuses around their jungle to dictate the motion, dictate the direction of their fights and how their fights start off. But when looking at Summit, that's not the case. It's actually Vayne. Vayne dictates how all of these fights are going, and so does the positioning for Maymay, which is a little bit different than you might expect, but Maymay's positioning is so important. But yeah, the other thing though too is you cannot forget about the Vayne. Vayne's been able to turn these fights around so much. She's got so much gold. Once again, trying to lock down Comet. You looks like you stepped a little bit too close. However, Wipers out's going to come in. Maymay having to back off on the other side, popping a little bit of heals down. There's the mistake erasing. There's the shockwave trying to lock them down, but it's too little too late. They've only delivered themselves in the jaws of defeat as Bug is left here holding the bag, and this should be 4 kills for Summit Esports.
Yeah, it's gonna be 4 kills. Nantono Astra gonna be dominating, and that was entirely a mechanical victory coming out of Summit Esports. It's not that they found like an amazing angle or anything, it's just Nantono Astra saw that the Sivir was a little bit overextended, gets that shutdown, and then Troy coming in from the side with a perfect unstoppable onslaught. And at that point, since the Vayne was also able to just flash out of the shockwave, there was nothing they could do. Shitbug unfortunately teleported into the middle of 5 members. I don't think they expected their team to go down that fast. And all of a sudden, I was saying they needed a couple of those fights, and now the game 1K in the Goldie towards Summit. And this is what I was telling you at the start. You were saying that IBSG, you never know how the game's going to go. And I told you, Masters is volatile, and we're seeing that here prime in our screens.
Fair enough, for sure. This is going to be a perfect example of it too. But sort of continuing on that, I think one of the big reasons why they did decently well in that fight is even though Mei wasn't in the world's best positioning, like it was about the positioning I would expect for this level of play. But they weren't caught by the Cyclone. They weren't caught by a lot of the shenanigans, and a good chunk of that had to do with Troy coming in with that ultimate. But Soraka was just able to sit there and heal, and even though Vayne was taking the damage, because Soraka was not CC, because she was not knocked up or rooted or anything like that, she was able to continue her healing and drop down her support, and Vayne just barely felt a tickle throughout that entire fight. And that's what the power, it's a double-edged sword. If Wukong's able to get there and get the Soraka and the Vayne at the same time, they're going to be dead. But that's not happening. They're not allowing that to happen. That positioning is shaping up just a little bit better for Summit.
Definitely. And I think to go further into that point, the only anti-heal they have is on Comet right now. And when Comet is the first one to go down in the fights, it makes it nigh impossible to out DPS that heal, because when you lose Comet, you lose most of your damage and you lose that extra healing. But Baron's going to be pulled now. They might just be baiting for a fight here on the side of Wawas, though, with all 4 members showing up. Maybe they were just trying to sneak it. They are going to back away, so not going to lose too much. But Fluoride has finally hit the point we do like to see from Mundos. Now going to be that immovable object in the side lane. Troy overall did push in Fluoride in the early game, but that's definitely going to start changing now.
The Vision Ward is really starting to favor either side. They want to get a bit of an advantage to try to lock down that Baron. And people, I think, forget at this point in League of Legends is Baron is the original autocon for turning team fights around. And I think we got to watch out for that. Bug is here. That shockwave is going to be so powerful, but so is the positioning for both the Soraka and the Vayne. We are starting to bait this out. This could still go either way. TP coming in. And hopefully Sion's able to interrupt that, but I don't think he's going to have time. He needs to TP up there in order to support his team. Otherwise, we're just going to give it shockwave coming in. It is going to pop down on the Vayne, but it looks like Soraka's been able to keep them alive. Look at that damage. Absolutely shredding the competition. Wukong goes in, but only going to take it down right there at the end. Fluoride going to grab some kill, but Vayne does not care. She is the answer to what they are dishing out, and this is going to be 4 kills and a Nasher.
And I gotta say, Kasek, the one member to go down on the side of Summit Esports, Wawas, was the one reason they won that fight. That seismic shove that found Shitbug, that found Wyke was Wyke was Asker or Fleetbane, it doesn't matter. They found both of them on one seismic shove and 2-0 early on in the fight. At that point, the fight was over. So it was everything they could do from Chiquita Banana to try and get anyone out. And unfortunately, 4 of them did go down. And the timing on it is just so bad for them as well. They lose the Baron. Yes, that's bad enough on its own. They lose the fight. That makes it even worse. But now the Dragon is going to be spawning. It is going to be Drake number 3 going the way of Summit Esports. It doesn't break their tempo to even go back and take this. So then they can continue pushing in with a very, very long duration left on their Baron buff. And again, the pendulum, it swings. And right now, Summit Esports, they're the ones that are going to take advantage again.
And even at this point, if Sivir does come online, they're going to really struggle because the tempo is very much so in the other side. Troy going down, trying to lock down Bug. It looks like it's going to be enough as Zen comes in. And the damage, as well as Troy, is allowed to do a bit of a tower dive. Lulu trying to escape from that Sion, taking a bit of damage, but the siege power is unreal. Baron helping them knock at the doors, taking down the T3. And of course, the Inhib Tilia doing the same thing in the bot lane. So we're doing a bit of a 4-1.
Yeah, and I think they could look to push for more. Comet is the last little bit of wave clear that they have. If they're able to find Comet, then they could just end the game here and now. But look at the way those boomerangs have been going. They're looking to go in.
Ooh, there it is. Finally going in. Cyclone going to hit most of the team, but Willie going to take it out of Talia. Absolutely stopping the gank in the other side, but Vayne doesn't care. She's got a juicy Pete to go for, trying to lock them down. That Lulu is in danger. 1-2 tap is all it's going to take. Vayne looking for an angle to lock down Comet is going to find it with the help of Troy. Bug coming in. We got to watch out for that shockwave. No, it's not up just quite yet. No ultimate to turn this fight around. Vayne just does not care about Dr. Mundo. Shockwave coming in, but it doesn't matter because it looks like Summit is going to take game number 1.
And that was such a mechanical outplay game coming out from Summit Esports. And I mean, there's really no one that you can kind of call out as the main MVP for them, because Obviously, Nato Nasra had a phenomenal game on the Vayne 15-2-5, but at the same time, it was helped set up by the rest of the team as well. Kastek with that seismic shove near Baron, got them the Baron buff, got them the 4-for-1, got them the third dragon of the game, put a lot of pressure on Chiquita Banana. Troy just finding the perfect unstoppable onslaught angles for the team, just consistently finding ways to start the fight or give an area of safety for Nato Nasra to kind of back into, so that when you're cutting backwards as the Vayne, you have somewhere to go. And obviously, Nato Nasra especially finding so many moments where Chiquita Banana just overextended a little bit. And I think that's the main thing Summit Esports did incredibly well that caused them to win this game. Whenever someone was just slightly too far ahead in lane, not only were they able to recognize that immediately, they were always ready as a team to punish that. And that's where they got their first couple picks. That's where they got their first couple shutdowns. And I mean, it's really just showing an individual mastery and just overall mechanical knowledge coming out from Summit Esports.
Absolutely, Toki. And one of the things I try to look for in game number one is I refer it back to boxing terms all the time. When it comes to sort of the 1-2 punch, the jab a lot of times is your rangefinder. You use that to sort of feel out your opponent. And game number one, in a lot of different ways, is exactly that. It's a rangefinder. You're waking up. It's your first game. You know, even if you've done a little bit of practice, it's still a different environment. And Summit took a little while to wake up, but what normally happens is they take until the second game to warm up, but they did finally come online. And the fact that they're online now means that Chiquita's going to have to find the tempo shift and really play into that and just sort of get Summit to play with the beat of their drum. But we can speculate till we are blue in the face. Give us a couple of minutes. Should be about hopefully 2 to 3 minutes to wrangle the cats, the players, into the next set of games. But make sure to grab yourself some refreshments and some drinks, and we'll be right back. All righty. Thank you for being patient as we roll into game number 2. Summit Esports coming out strong in game number 1. I say coming out sleepy and then strong in game number 1, Tokibi.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the best way to put it. But looking over at the game number 1 that we just had, thinking about it as we were on our break, I generally don't think there's too much I want to see different out of Chiquita Banana,
Mhm.
because I think a lot of their plays were quite good. They knew where to overload on numbers. They did get caught a couple times. That's kind of the only thing they need to worry about, but those aren't really major changes you need to make between games. And more importantly, they are changes that you are able to make between games. So this means that if Chiquita just play a little bit more back, a little bit more respectful of the engage range that some of these sports will have, even if it isn't with a hard stun, they could definitely win this one out, as we are now into the draft for game number 2. And so far, similar bands, and by similar, I mean exactly the same. So not too much to talk about there.
Well, and for the most part, with the Masters players, I've got to imagine if they don't have coaches, they've at least done a bit of scouting out on the other side, or have played them beforehand, so they know what to watch out for. And they, Master players, I think in a lot of ways are very confident in what they want to do and what they don't want to do. So that I think that reflects to the bans not wanting to deal with the Mbessa. I haven't seen it myself. I didn't realize that apparently it's ridiculous in the jungle, but it's not the first weird, ridiculous jungle to pop off. I kind of want to see it once. I'm not sure if I want to cast it, and I don't know how I feel about it, so maybe it'll be a one and done for me. But exact same bands coming out, starting out strong. So far we're sticking pretty meta, at least when it comes to the jungles, going from Zen to Jarvan. Now Wukong's already off the table. Keep in mind, everyone, this is Fearless. I don't think we have a fancy Fearless thing, but the picks from previous game, of course, are not going to apply to this one. You know how Fearless works, and we're waiting for the second pick here. This could be a lot of things. I think Chiquita's in a lot of good spots to sort of do a bunch of flex picks here if they want.
I'd like to see them pick their jungle here. There's still a couple that are strong in the meta. Trundle especially. I don't know if they play it, but if Mike Wazowski's able to play the Trundle, I think it would be very good. Again, it's another one of those champions that is able to come online early, able to make plays early. There's no tank being shown right now on the side of Summit Esports, but at the same time, I think Trundle's at that point where he's strong enough where you don't really need to put him as an anti-tank. So there's definitely a lot of options there, but we are going to be seeing Silas locked in as a potential response to J4. Honestly, we have seen some Silas jungles popping up. It's not super often, so this might be a flex pick of its own. Could go mid or jungle, and it's going to be Kaisa blind picked early. So we're seeing this. I'm hoping that Chiquita is just going to be doing an all-in composition. Just going to start getting a lot of dive, engage support. Even something like Malphite for the top side would be pretty good for them. Normally, it's scary to pick it because, well, obviously it doesn't do too well beyond the early stages of lane. And with Silas being one of the hardest counters of any champion combination in all of League of Legends. But if you have the Silas, you don't need to worry about that, as Draven locked in. Okay, this is a fun one. This is a very fun one. Obviously does really well into Kaisa. Kaisa's short range can easily be run down by the Draven, but again, it's a win harder champ. So Summit Esports, they would definitely need to get some kills over onto Nanto no Asura.
Well, and I believe the sides are correct, as in Summit still on the blue side, and then, of course, Chiquita being on red side. But with this being the vein from the previous game, honestly, Draven fits their play style in a lot of different ways. Even though he's gone through a lot of different changes just sort of since his conception, he still very much so is run forward at you and murder you, Draven, and that hasn't changed. There's going to be a classic answer there for it being Nautilus. And I do have one worry, and that is that this is potentially Silas support. At this level, I have seen him an uncomfortable amount of times, and while he can be good, like almost right up until like level 5, maybe level 6, he falls off the deep end if you don't get a bunch of immediate benefits. That doesn't appear to be the case. So we're going to get Braum Kaisa classic combination, and I think that is a good answer into Draven in a lot of different ways. Draven does not like Braum for good reasons, and it's more than just his shield.
Yeah, and it also makes the Nautilus a lot less effective in this bottom lane. At least up until level 6. So it'll buy a little bit of extra time for the Kaisa to scale up. Eventually, the Kaisa will be able to outscale. Has a lot more tools in her arsenal compared to the Draven. Draven's very, well, single-dimensional. Just, I have big axe, I throw big axe at you. Kaisa has a little bit more mobility, will be able to run around more. obviously Killer Instinct. She can join in fights from a distance. So they have a lot more tools in their bottom lane here. And I'm really liking the blue and purple theme they have going for themselves, by the way, on Chiquita. I definitely not part of their strategy, but I'm always a fan when it just happens that way.
Well, I mean, I think color scheme and skin game, win game are going to be pretty important. At least they are for me. I always try to catch them right before the game kicks off. But when I'm looking at this, Draven is a little bit more vulnerable, but so was Vayne. The biggest difference here is you do not have the mistakes eraser that is Soraka. Nautilus can buy you time and can do a bit of peeling, but he's not an end-all be-all. So this could be a very exposed Draven, especially with the fact that we have a Sylas and that we have a Kaisa. If we're able to coordinate that and take down the Draven before these fights kick off, I think Summit's going to be in a lot of trouble. That's going to be hard to deal with. Not impossible, because Vayne was able to get out a lot of those things, but I think one of the biggest things is Chiquita needs to put Summit on their back foot and keep them there the entire time. Keep the tempo in their favor, because as soon as they lost tempo, it just absolutely fell apart.
Yeah, but I don't think they can dive onto this Draven with the way that the draft is set up, because you have J4, you have Nautilus. The amount of guaranteed peel they have is going to be absolutely insane from Summit, but Galio locked in, so it does look like they are going to be trying to do a full dive composition. I just don't think it's going to be mainly Draven that's going to be the target. I don't think they're going to be trying to just one-shot the Draven. I think it's going to be whoever's caught out. I think they just want to kind of separate the front line from the back line, and that's how they want to play out these team fights. And Galio definitely a strong tool for that. So with that, I believe, unless it's a Galio going into the top lane, it most likely is going to be the Sylas in the jungle. And honestly, I think that would be a very good spot for it. There's a lot of strong ultimates to steal right now. There's the dredge line, there's the depth charge, sorry, and the cataclysm coming out from the Nautilus and J4. And with Smolder as well, Mom, not the strongest ability typically, but it's still a huge AoE slow. And when you have a dive composition like this, where you're just planning on grouping them together, knocking them all up, Mom can add a decent amount of damage to it.
And that might be what they need. When you have Galio, Galio doesn't do an insane amount of damage unless you go pure AP, and then even then his damage is just sort of like decently good. So we're going to need something in the top lane to offset that. And, you know, maybe one of their goals to offset that is to get Mom out there, is to get the depth charge, is to get Draven's ultimate or Cataclysm. Something to either buy them time, which plays into Galio's strengths with the taunts and the knockups and everything that he's got, in order for them to deal the damage, because they don't have an insane amount of upfront damage. And you mentioned before that it's going to be very hard to get to the Draven. So I think the strategy is going to be to sort of buy them time, but maybe we're wrong, because we're going to lock in Camille. And I think Camille is also a double-edged sword. Sure, she does a lot of damage, don't get me wrong, but a lot of times if she blows her kits and she doesn't kill whoever she's after, she just kind of dies. She's just sort of stuck there a lot of times and dies. So the execution is going to be so important when it comes to that top lane.
Now, this is an old combo we haven't really seen come out in a while, but Camille Galio, when these two are meta, they are commonly paired together because, again, Hextech Ultimatum into Heroic Entrance, there is no counterplay to that. You're going to get hit by it or you're going to go golden. And I suspect this is going to be the Rise top, and Rise is very possible to lock down at the top side. Doesn't have any dashes, can't go invisible. Realm Warp is a thing in theory, but again, with Hextech Ultimatum, won't be able to actually leave. So it looks like Chiquita, they're planning on playing towards that top side. They're looking to shut down Troy. And Summit at the same time, they're kind of in a weird state where they have a lot of scaling and they have a lot of early game. I actually really like how they drafted overall. My only possible concern for them is they are a little bit squishy with their engage. Because it is just going to be Nautilus and J4. And when there are tools like the Braum, like the Galio, it could be a little bit difficult to start fights. But if you have a Smolder and a Rise, you don't necessarily need to. You can just keep scaling and eventually just poke them down with a Super Scorcher Breath.
And when looking at the Smolder, I've got to imagine the Smolder is going to be pretty happy with this matchup, because, of course, he wants to hit that 225 stacking in order to get the execute, I believe it is. And, you know, you've got a lot of good beefy targets to go for. Galio wants to get in your face, and Smolder's like, okay, fine, I'll just build stacks off of you. And often you see that in the bot lane instead, where they build stacks off of the melee support, but I can't imagine they have an issue dealing with it. But it is going to be a bit of a double-edged sword. Galio does do a deceptive amount of damage, especially to mages, with him being an anti-mage. So it is going to be something to watch out for. Either way, we can once again speculate till we're blue into the face, but we won't know until the game actually kicks off. This is going to be going into game number 2. So far, our score is 1-0. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. We're just waiting for the spectator delay to tick down, but make sure to stay tuned. Alrighty, the kickoff for game number 2 starts right here, and we're starting spicy. We've got Braum, which means this is going to be one of our invade champions. That Q passive combo is going to be so powerful to pop with, and we've got so many tools to get it. Draven might actually be in a little bit of danger. We're really going to watch out for this. The Q should come in. He doesn't see it, but he does sense it. Okay.
No, so it's interesting where Nanto and Asura was standing in that brush, because a lot of the time you'll see them standing kind of like in that middle part near the bottom where the tri-brush kind of like connects, but he was standing further up ahead. And that's the angle you stand at if you're expecting someone to be invading from down below. So Nanto and Asura caught it just in time. And honestly, like, it's a very silly thing to look at. And I know I'm probably making a big deal of something that really doesn't matter that much. But the reflexes to immediately turn around and put the ward down that fast, it's not something a lot of people do, because as much as we like to think that, hey, we're standing defense, we're watching the entrances, we still autopilot a little bit. When someone actually shows up, we're still not ready for it. But Nanto Asura was definitely ready for it. Now, I know I'm glazing way too much for what ultimately isn't that big a deal of a play, but I know I love seeing that kind of stuff from players.
Well, and I think that's something, those little things are something that build into the greater story, because what it shows here is that Draven has a good amount of built-in muscle memory, as we're starting off pretty strong here. The hook is good, trying to lock down the Braum. Look at the damage Draven still doing. Draven thing's going to flash forward and pick up the first kill. Comet having a hard time keeping up with it. This is exactly what I was talking about with Summit. This ADC is very comfortable with moving forward, with playing just essentially Draven.
Okay, so if we're on Chiquita Banana, there is one little bit that we can kind of take away from this, something that we can be a little bit happy about, and that's the fact that the first kill was a minute and a half in, which means there haven't been that many League of Draven stacks yet. So this is mostly just going to be a regular kill gold, thankfully, and even with a couple stacks, should still be less than the old First Blood. Now, that still doesn't make it a good play, but, you know, when you die level 1 to Draven, you have to try and think of something to keep your spirits up, because it gets very difficult. Draven is one of the most snowbally AD carries in the entire game. Fall behind a little bit, and he can continuously punish you harder and harder and harder, and eventually doesn't even need to worry about killing you. He can just hit you with one axe while you're underneath the turret, and at that point, you just have to leave.
And it's really unfortunate for the Braum, because as tanky as Braum is, you know, the damage for Draven still very much so is there. Summit Esports is faring quite well in the poke game entirely across the board. In every lane, they seem to be doing decently well. And, you know, every time I see Ryze back in another lane, I just feel like I've gone back in time. This is a Ryze top, which I'm a big fan of. Q coming down, trying to buy a little bit of time there for Draven. Looks like we're going for a full 3-man fight, but fighting in the jungle may not be the best thing for them. Looks like the flash and the taunt is good. The Q is also good. Knock up, trying to lock down the Smolder passive. Gonna get popped. Comet looking for a kill, is indeed gonna pick it up. It looks like Silas is gonna take it away, but that's not the worst person to grab it. Tying up our score 1-1. Toki B as Troy might be a little bit of trouble in the top lane.
Yeah, but there is Morn in the area. Fluoride.
There it is, double flash and a kill going to the other side, going taking our score 2-1. Jarvan picking up a kill, Draven picking up a kill, and Silas picking up a kill, respectively.
Yeah, and that's going to be a very nice kill for themselves as well, being able to take down Fluoride. Now, White Wazowski did get the pickoff in that jungle fight, but again, it is just going to be the one kill on to Kastek, who was able to TP back into the mid lane. Didn't lose too much in terms of CS, but so ultimately, it is a kill. It is good, but it's not going to be super impactful. But now, in the top side, Fluoride did have to burn Flash for that and did go down as well as May.
Looking for an angle, but just barely misses. However, the root is good. This is what they need. The Ignite coming down. Bug in trouble, and there it is. A death, and the Feats of Warfare getting claimed by the Nautilus. Sure, Smolder may have wanted it, but Feats of Warfare are a nice consolation prize.
Yeah, Kastek actually almost prevented that kill from going over. Kind of gave up once that dredge line didn't land, but luckily still was able to get in range with the flap, able to get that last auto off, and May's Ignite was able to seal the deal. And Shitbug doesn't have TP, so this is also going to be a free push-in for Kastek, and this is just going to make the lane even easier for the Smolder. Now, Smolder in general doesn't scale too well off items directly, But what a lot of the early items do is it makes it a lot easier to one-shot the waves with that Q, and it also gives ability haste. So even though it won't really increase the damage just with the value of the items themselves, it will allow the Smolder to stack up significantly faster and will be able to be online significantly earlier.
Once again, May is here to provide a bit more pressure. We're going to follow it up, though, with Silas, and hopefully May doesn't run directly into this. That's going to be a lot of hurt in the bush. We do see it coming. Plenty of wards down, so that makes sense. May very, very happy to continuing the rotate. We did get a follow-up rotate, a counter-rotate there by Fleabug coming in. Fluoride and Troy duking it out, but I don't think Fluoride wants this fight. Rice should have everything. Yeah, Rice has everything back at that point. But something I wanted to highlight before anything kicks off again is Castack has been very, very clean about dodging a lot of these knockups, dodging a lot of these stuns that Bug has pushed out over and over and over, just not allowing them to do that. Looking for a gank now on Fluoride. Flag and Drag, unfortunately, is not good, but this is going to be a one shot, and it looks like Troy doesn't even really need the help. Passive almost going to get popped by May, but that's going to be a very happy rise or score. Moving up 4-1, Tokibi.
I mean, look at this bullying in the bot side as well.
Yeah.
And that was after Fleet Pain has already used that Unbreakable, just trying to keep combat safe. And I think that's the reason why we have seen May in the mid lane so often, because at this point, the Draven on his own will be able to just bully out Comet and Fleet Pain just 1-on-2. And that's a big power of that Draven. That's why you pick it. It does mean that Comet will be able to at least get the last hits. Without May, they don't have quite as much kill pressure and won't be able to zone quite as hard, especially if Nato no Asura wants to keep the axes alive. But still, lots of plays going towards Summit Esports Wawas early on again now. Last time they had a pretty solid start as well, but they did throw a little bit towards the mid game. They overextended a couple times, took a couple bad fights. We'll see if that's going to happen again, but I think this time around their composition is a lot harder to punish. And we could even be seeing a dive in the bot lane. Morn is in the area. I don't think they've spotted out Wyke Wazowski. They do have a ward on that blue buff, so they know that this is going to be a 2v3. Let's see if they do want to go for this.
Looks like we're going to try to go for a couple of the plays instead, which aren't the worst thing to go for. Flag and Drag is good as Braum gets locked down. Flag and Drag going to take him down as Morn looking for the damage, but he's underneath tower. Cataclysm is good. Trying to lock him down. Draven should have plenty of damage even if Morn gets taken down. The flash going to happen as Mid continues to duke it out, and Silas picks up a kill, and that's going to be a weird 3-for-2 trade. Rise and Jarvan, and of course the mid laner Smolder going to get taken down for the 2 on the other side. Bring our score to 6-4.
Yeah, the solo lane's going down. I think that was a really interesting trade because I'm pretty sure it was Shitbug and Fluoride killing Troy in the top lane and Wyke Wazowski killing Castack in the mid lane. So mid laner kills top. I don't know. This is a weird rock, paper, scissors. I don't know the rules, but overall it's a very solid play for them because they do get their Camille a kill. They do get Wyke Wazowski another, kind of slow down the Smolder a little bit. But at the same time, there is now a 3-0 Draven in the bottom lane. And this time around, there definitely were those League of Draven stacks. Yuntal completed at 9 minutes with the longsword and 2 daggers to boot. So this Draven is an absolute monster already. And at this point, we can only guess how much Nato no Asura is going to continue to snowball, because this is going to be a very tough Draven to take down. However, if they do find the angle, they do have the Camille, they do have the Galio. It is not necessarily a loss, and this isn't the Bloodthirster build either. This is going to be a more scaly, more damage-oriented build, but it does mean that Nato no Asura is going to be a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Going to be a little bit more under pressure there.
And that makes sense. We don't have someone to erase the mistakes like Soraka, as Troy going to deal a little bit of damage here into Fluoride. The trait should be pretty good. We're going to miss at least one ability, but the Rune Prison is good. Think we have a disconnect there for Silas. I'm not sure what that is. But we're looking for some sort of fight there in the bot lane. And the thing I like here for Summit Esports is these kills are on Draven. Not just the fact that it's on Draven, but specifically who it is, as they're trying to lock down the other side. There is the Dredge. His mother gets called there in the background. So much damage locking them down. Chiquita Chiquita absolutely getting melted inside their own jungle as a Dramatic Pot comes in. Everybody gets to fall to pieces. Bug trying to buy time for Comet to get out 2 kills. Cataclysm gonna pop their way down. We're trying to lock down Comet on the other end. Morn doing a little bit of love poking, giving Smolder a little time as the barrier gonna get activated, and there finally gonna go down, smiting the Kaisa.
I always find that the most VM way to finish off that kill. I don't think Morn had a different tool there, though, so that kill basically had to be a smite. But again, we're seeing this team fight coming out from Summit Esports. Wawas, Nacho Nasra gets the kill, manages to get those extra stacks, and the rest of the kills go on to Castek. So not only do they now have their Draven that's super far ahead, but they also have Castek on a ward.
Castek running directly into Braum. 1 Q should be enough to do it, and unfortunately we're going to miss, but we do have the Ignite and the tap. That should be a death. Yes, indeed, he's going to fall down. It is to Braum. There's no objective really to go for it, so that's not the worst thing for them to go down. Sure, you didn't want to back on a ward, but it is what it is. At least it went to the sport, and at least there's not an objective up.
Yeah, it will mean that Castek does lose a little bit of CS in the mid lane, and at the same time, having Flea Pain get those extra support items early on, like the Locket, like the Redemption, it could be meaningful as kind of going a little bit deep.
Locking down for Castek, but just taking it directly to the face. They're going to take at least 1 shot there for the passive. Braum taking so much damage. Flea having to flee from this engagement, taking so much damage. Just everybody absolutely chunks them, and this is a Braum. More stacks building here for Castek. As it looks like we've also go down about half HP, which is a little dangerous into a Galio.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to be half HP in this lane, but that's what May's for. Just going to walk up, help make sure that Castek can push this wave in. I wouldn't even be surprised to see another reset coming through from Castek basically immediately. Won't be able to buy too much with it, but instead just going to be playing for this brush, looking for the wards as Shitbug going to get rooted up again.
Q coming in. Looks like we're going around the long side and trying to lock them down. Mother's going to get called in as Bug is in danger. Should be able to get out. The Cavalry is here. Plenty of knockers up. Silas is trying to find the damage there for May. May going to get taken down. Falling to Silas. Mother going to get called in, hitting a grand total of no on Fluoride, going over the wall. A little bit of a back and forward. Not the worst thing. I thought things were going to collapse much scarier for the other end, but you can't forget about the wallet diff as Draven takes down the T1 in bot lane.
Yeah, definitely massive fight for them to get the tier 1 in the bot lane. That is going to be the completed feats.
Oh, no.
Fluoride getting run down a little bit here as well, but I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here, okay, Korak? Because you said that Castek called Mother on them, and the ability is called Mom, but I got to say, the second you said that, I now need a gentleman Smolder skin. Like, that's just something that I absolutely has to happen. They have the gentleman Cho'Gath make one for Smolder, where instead of going, Mom, just very nice casual, Mother.
Mother. That makes sense. I could see that. If we're talking about funny skins that we want to see, my favorite way to say Lysandra is, of course, lasagna. So if we got a lasagna-themed Lysandra skin, I would be absolutely there for it. But that is my TED Talk. Thank you for coming as Troy, taking a bit of damage. Fluoride should have a bit, but this is very hard to trade into Rise. Rise is deceptively powerful, having to blow his ult, and it's not going to be good enough as the flash comes out and he dies anyways. Fluoride finally online.
Yeah, I mean, that Triforce timing is so strong for Camille. You have to respect that if you're Troy. We were talking about in game number 1 how Summit Esports, they were really good at recognizing when someone was just a little bit too far up in lane, too far away from their turrets, and just immediately diving upon them. This time we see it going the other way. Fluoride just able to recognize that Troy just a little bit too far up with that Triforce timing. As now Morn, I don't think Morn is reasonably fighting this.
Oh, the Cataclysm going to come in, so he's going to go all in for it, looking for a little bit more, buying himself some time. Flag and Drag is going to... No! Going to get a little bit of love tap and taken down. Camille, got to be feeling happy with that one, Toki.
Oh, Mike Wazowski's probably kicking himself right now, because if that flag landed, if that Dragon Strike landed, if any of those final abilities landed, any one of those two... that would have been the kill going over to White. Instead, you're given another kill over to Fluoride. Someone who is going to be scaling extremely well. Camille becomes such a dominating force in those side lanes. This is actually opening up a possible win con for Chiquita Banana. Now, they still going to need a little bit more on top of that because, as we can see, Nintendo Astro is having a blast this game, just having a great time. When you pick Draven, this is the game you envision. I talk a lot about those fantasy moments that everyone has when they're playing League, because each champion has their own fantasy. This is the Draven fantasy, just running someone down. There's nothing they can do about it.
Not just someone, every someone. Every time they turn around, Draven's running directly into them. And I do like what Chiquita's been trying to do here in the background. They've been trying to avoid the Draven. Speaking of avoiding Draven, Castech taking a good chunk of damage, but we're going to get a massive hook locking down the other side as Draven's just allowed to take out everybody. That's going to be 2 kills on here, and Fluoride trying to escape. If anyone can do it, it's going to be Camille, but it's going to be hard. Flash over the wall. The damage is good. The Ignite comes down as Camille does manage to make it out, but just barely.
Yeah, but they're not done yet. They're still going to be chucking those axes, but Nintendo Astro are actually low on mana. And contrary to popular belief, Draven is a very mana-reliant champion. This could be a moment for them.
Ooh, flash taunt, trying to lock him down. Braum going to follow up with an ultimate of his own. TP coming in, and Camille picking up kill after kill, looking for 1 kill, grabbing the second one. Going down to 5-2. This is not what you want. Camille is starting to get fed.
And this is the win con I was talking about. Fluoride, 5-2-1, like you said, just got a double kill. That was a massive shutdown as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if at this point Fluoride, despite just TPing into the fight, is pretty close onto that second completed item. So this is going to be a moment for Fluoride to potentially just carry this game, and looking for more Castech.
Oh no, Castech in trouble. Gonna get dove and taken down. He stepped just a toe out of line, and they were ready to take him down with the objective. We're sitting at about 17-minute mark, so we're about in the mid sort of team fight phase, depending on how you want to phrase it. We're sitting about 34k to 29k, 14 to 12. But I think at this point, you know, Chiquita's looking better and better as the game moves on.
Yeah, I mean, without question, but just like game number 1, though, the mid game is where somebody esports seems to be faltering a little bit. And even if Chiquita is not going to be able to take advantage of this, if there's any teams that are watching this stream that are looking ahead towards the playoffs, looking ahead to future matches against Summit Esports Wawas, maybe try a mid-game team comp, because the way things are looking, that's when they start showing a few cracks. Now, if Summit Esports are able to fix that, we've seen how dominant they can be in lane. We've seen how dominant they can be in those late game fights. So it's really just about filling in this one small gap. And once they do that, they're looking like they can be a very unstoppable team.
There's still a lot of back and forward, no real commitment, and I don't blame them. They do have to watch out for Troy. Gonna have to worry about the other end, as it looks like Walking gonna go in, then get a good chunk of damage. Comet picking up a kill, bringing themselves 3-3. Rise just overextending just a bit too much and gonna get taken down for it, but looks like we're gonna try to trade this T2.
Yeah, and they don't really have the cooldowns to defend this. Maybe with Unbreakable they can buy enough time, but I think they can just kill the Braum.
We're going to just take the tower. Braum does get out, but honestly, I think taking the tower is a little bit more advantageous. And oh no, Silas going to pick up a hook directly to the face once again, as Morn's able to pick up a kill even every time. Chiquita seems to get some sort of advantage. Draven's like, no, I'm going to take you down. Another good hook coming in, locking down Bug, as Shelly looking for the charge to take down this T3. The taunt is good, locking down more and more, taking so much damage. Flag and drag to safety, but it's not going to be enough because Camille is on the hunt. Camille is out for blood. She wants to get kill. She's going to take down the support, and now it's going to be support, but it doesn't matter. Draven picking up a double kill, turning that around, just doing casual Draven things.
Yeah, now Shitbug could be in a bad spot as well. 1 or 2 more axes.
He's not done. He's not done. Yeah, he's just going to pick up another kill. That's 4, basically, for Draven. That's insane.
Yeah, and with the blue and red buff, with those double buffs right now, Nintendo Astra, the one weakness Draven has in those long fights is you genuinely run out of mana so fast, but they could be looking towards Nanto.
Ooh, this is a good opportunity. The Cataclysm for Silas is good. The shotgun is going to pick up, and it's not going to go to a bad person whatsoever, but even every little bitty advantage Chiquita's getting, this Draven just seems to be offsetting, even though he gets taken down from time to time. You know, we're just turning it around. Next one to fall victim might be this Smolder, going down about half HP. Mom going to get called in, trying to lock them down. We're going to flap over the wall. We're going to try to get the Hex Attack Gate, but it's not going to be a good, as Comet's able to pick up another kill. We should have time to to get back for this upcoming objective. About 1 minute and 50 seconds on the clock. And I think if Chiquita is able to get their hands on this, it'll be super helpful. But they're going to go for the autocon instead. I did not realize it was already up, so this is good to go. However, we cannot forget Jarvan loves fighting into Autocon. His armor pin doesn't necessarily stack, but it does apply directly to the numbers, and we're going to try to find an advantage as the taunt comes in as Morn gets absolutely locked down. So much damage back and forward. Me getting popped on the side as we're going to pop down the Cataclysm, separating the team as it looks like Chiquita, once again, with that double armor shred. He's not going to be enough of Fluoride here for the save, but it's not going to be enough either. Going to get taken down, and that's going to be a full wipe. Autocon does it again, and that's going to be an ace.
Oh, Chiquita Banana. I would have liked either of the ideas. Just burst down the Otacon or go immediately into that fight. But they took the Otacon super low, and then they ran into the fight. And Fluoride, unfortunately, very late TP there. I think with old TP, it would have been fine, but the players have to realize the new teleports, you cannot start your teleport once the fight starts. You have to be preemptive. You have to be casting that TP before the fight begins. And because of that, even though Fluoride is super strong right now, the fight was already over, as now Braum gonna get caught again.
Trying to lock down the Braum. Braum able to return with an ult, but look how quickly the Galio gonna get taken down. Draven stepping a little bit too far forward into the jaws of death, trying to lock down this Silas. Silas gonna pop Zonia's, but will it be able to keep him alive? No, Troy's able to grab a kill. Even though the Draven's gone, you cannot forget about the rest of the team. Smolder picking up a kill, TPing, or ulting, sorry, there to try to take down Comet. Comet does pick up a kill as Morn does take them out in turn, and that's going to be an ace, unfortunately, for Chiquita.
Yeah, and that's going to be a massive fight going the way of Summit Esports. And like you rightfully said, yes, they take down the Draven, but this entire time, Smolder has been stacking. Smolder has those 225 stacks. They have the execute. They have that percent HP burn. And all of a sudden, even if you take down the Draven, that's not enough anymore. Troy has also scaled up almost at 3 full items. Once that death cap is complete, this is going to be a terrifying rise to fight into. So there's a lot of power spikes happening right now for Summit Esports Wawas. And that's not even including the fact that there is a 12k gold lead altogether right now for the side of Summit. They're hitting their item timings. They're hitting the skill shots that they need. All of their late game kind of insurance policies have already paid off. So at this point, it's going to be a huge uphill battle for Chiquita. Unless they're able to find some pickoffs, I think this game is just done and dusted.
And it's going to be so hard to overcome this wallet diff, especially because they keep losing Drakes. We're going to try to lock down Castech. Castech should take a good chunk of damage as heroic entrance does happen, but it's just not going to be a flag and drive trying to lock down the Galio. Mom going to get called in, and this should be a dead mid laner. Yep, Troy's just going to snipe it.
Just look at the damage from the Rise, though. That was just one ability, basically doing a third of the anti-mage mid laner's health. I mean, that's not something you want to see whenever you have a Galio in your team. 0-7 on Shitbug right now. Definitely not the score that they'd be looking for. And it looks like they're looking to just end the game potentially here. TPing up top. They're sending everyone except for Troy. So it's going to be 4-0-1 right now. And they're just going to start pushing the game. I think right now Troy's job is just keeping Fluoride away from the base. Without Shitbug and especially without heroic entrance, they have nothing to defend this. They need to try and stage a fight, but how do they do it?
Fountain turret going to get taken down. Silas trying to find some sort of angle. There's going to be a knock up there for Braum, but Draven's got plenty of spacing thanks to the Cataclysm. A lot of back and forward. There is the Zonia's trying to lock them down. Draven almost goes down, but it does not count as he's able to pop his ultimate. He does get taken down, and it looks like we started to win the fight, but at what cost? It's just going to fall to pieces, and now it's going to be a 3v1 for the Nexus.
Yeah, make that a 4v1. Troy is going to be here as well. Hextech Ultimatum gonna come through, but it's not gonna matter. It's gonna be the ace coming in for Kostek, and just like that, it is a quick 2-0. Much cleaner game in game number 2 for Summit Esports Wawas.
I said it earlier, Toki B. I was worried about Chiquita because it seems like Summit Esports really came online about halfway into game number 1, and they did not stop. They did not relent. And most importantly, it put Chiquita in sort of this damned if you do, damned if you don't sort of scenario to where, yeah, they were killing the Draven, who was a massive problem. But at that point, the rest of the team was already online. And even right there at the end, you know, Draven got isolated, got finally taken him out, but it cost them the game.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And that's kind of the issue with these kinds of compositions. I actually think they had a way back into the game. They had Fluoride. And when they got that fight near the Otacon, I think that was the moment where they really put their own nail into the coffin. Like, they were inside. They're just like hammering upwards, trying to make sure that the coffin was closed on them. Because I think if Fluoride TP'd early on, or if they just finished the Otacon instead of trying to turn for the fight, I just flip the 50-50. You are behind. 50-50 is good odds for you. This is something you should be taking every single time, especially because the objective bounty was on it as well. The 50-50 was weighted in their hands. And so I would have loved to see them just finish off the Otacon. If you want to go for a fight afterwards, go for it. Go for it afterwards. Or alternatively, if you know that you're going to be turning, if you feel like you can't kill it before Morn gets there and you don't want to take the 50-50, don't even start it. Don't even touch it. You know you have the vision, clear out the vision. They're going to run into you. They're always going to be rushing. So as soon as they walk in, pick someone off and then go back to the Otacon. And you can rinse and repeat that as many times as you need.
Well, and something I keep trying to tell people and remind players and teams alike is that when you've got a Jarvan on the other side and you're looking to take Autocon, you've got to remember that that Jarvan exists. He is going to love that scenario. He's going to love that additional armor shred that he can sort of compound on top of you. So I'm always very, very weary when Jarvan's up. And it did look like Chiquita was trying to answer that. They tried to mash all their buttons and take them down. But, you know, like you said, they were already down to half HP. The Autocon was sort of half HP. And they were sort of committing to two different sort of things. I think if the roles were reversed and, you know, we got Summit going for the Autocon, I think fighting then would have been really, really good. But that's a bunch of ifs, Toki B. Either way, this has been a great cast. This has been fun to go on this adventure with you, Toki B. I've been really, really excited to dive into this. This Masters Leagues has been super, super great. But with that being said, this is all we have for y'all today. Thank y'all for tuning in. I've been your host for the evening, Korak. He has been Toki B. And this has been Blue Water Esports.